Oh hi guys, welcome again to the Four Bells Fitness Emporium. Here we are on our little temporary shutdown and we are talking about workout number 2. So workout number 2 is a upper body focus day, more particularly a focus on pushing mechanics and more specifically a focus on dips. So what we're going to do is just very quickly talk about the whole workout, and then we're going to go over the warm-up in this first video, and then we're going to do separate videos for the strength piece and the conditioning piece and the extra source. So when we're talking about today's workout, what we need to look at first of all is the strength piece. So our strength piece, as always, is going to be looking at an option with gym equipment if you have it, or if you're at home without any equipment. So first thing we need to think about today is our little warm-up. We're going to pick 2 exercises which are from a little warm-up we use at the gym, which is from the 5 rights of Tibetan yoga. So this is an anti-aging yoga system. There's 5 rights. One of those rights is spinning in a circle, so we don't usually do that, as we like to say. If you want to spin on your time, that's fine, but we're not going to spin on our time in the gym. So these are 2 movements taken out from the 4 that we normally use. So we are going to use the tabletop, which we're going to go over in just a second, which really helps focus on shoulder extension, particularly when we're looking at dips. And then we're going to look at a movement called the pump, which is a fantastic movement which covers a lot of shoulder mobility, low back mobility, hip mobility, and pretty much like a downward facing dog, up dog situation, which covers a huge gambit in terms of mobility. We are going to do 10 reps of each of those today for 3 sets, and we're going to go over that in our warm-up in just a second. When we get into our strength piece today, our strength piece, just like the workout number 1 we had earlier in the week, is going to be 5 sets. Each set is 3 minutes long. Within that 3-minute window, we have a superset to do. We have an antagonist pairing. So if I have gym equipment, we are going to be doing dips today for 8 to 10 reps. So more within a muscle building or hypertrophy rep range, looking to build some muscle in our dips today. We should be picking a scaling variation where I can do ideally 10, but if we find as the sets go on and intensity and fatigue starts to build up, then we're going to drop that down a little bit to 8 reps. As soon as I've done my dips, maybe I give myself 10 seconds or a few deep breaths, then I'm going to get into some one-arm rows today. So we're going to do 12 reps per side. You'll notice we're doing a little bit more pulling than we're doing pushing, just to balance out the shoulder girdle. When we do one-arm rows today, it could be done with a dumbbell, could be done with a kettlebell, could be done with a landmine, whatever you prefer, but we're going to do some one-arm rows today. And if we can, just like with the dips and the one-arm rows, try to get a little bit more challenging as those 5 sets go on. As we come over into our home-based equipment, for a lot of people, and Ben and I were kind of just discussing this before we started filming today, one of the big challenges when you're working out at home is really dealing with the posterior chain, the back of you. It's really hard to work on pulling if you don't have rings or a TRX or a chin-up bar, and it's extremely hard to work on the hamstrings and the glutes and the low back development if you don't have something to do like either some kind of leg curl or a Nordic curl or some kind of kettlebell swing or a deadlift. So we have to really try and get as imaginative and creative as possible to make sure that you can get a decent workout. When we're looking at our strength piece for our home today, we're going to do dips on the couch or a box or a stair, whatever you think works best for you in terms of stability. We're going to do those for 10 reps today. And then we're going to do a door row. So this is a little something that I've been playing around with over the last few days, just in terms of how can we do pulling movements when we don't really have a lot of equipment. And are we willing to be creative? We're going to do that for 12 reps today. If door rows are not available to you, we're going to talk about something called the YTWI, which is a great exercise for the upper back, and particularly the rotator cuff. So once we've done our strength piece, 5 sets, 3 minutes each set, we're going to come into our conditioning piece. Our conditioning piece, short and sweet today, a 10-minute AMRAP, 600 seconds of fun. If you are at home or if you have equipment, we're going to talk about different variations, but essentially what we're looking for today is a one-arm thruster. I'm going to have an object in one arm, could be a dumbbell, could be a kettlebell. We're going to come into a deep squat and then drive that object overhead to extension. Again, we're going to talk about options you have, and again, get creative. We're going to do 5 reps on one arm, 5 reps on the other. As soon as I'm done with that, if you have rings or TRX available to you at home, we're going to do 15 reps. We're going to go back and forth between these 10 reps of thrusters, 15 ring rows, back and forth for 600 seconds of joy. Last but not least, extra sauce. We are still in a planking cycle. Whether the gym is open or not, we're still in our planking cycle. So with our planking finisher today, we're going to do 30 seconds of a plank up. So a plank exercise that involves a little bit of anti-rotation through the core, a lot of tricep extension to help finish off with our dips today. 30 seconds of plank ups, 30 seconds of a regular plank, so a minute of total work, and then we're going to rest for 30 seconds. We are going to do that 4 times in our finisher today. So, with that in mind, let's talk very quickly about the warm-up. Okay, so into the 2 exercises we're going to do for our warm-up today. We've got the tabletop and we have got the pump. Hilarious name, great exercise. With the tabletop position, we're focusing on quite a few things. We're focusing on hamstring flexibility, we're looking at hip extension and how mobile our hips are, as well as shoulder extension as well. So it covers a fair gambit of movements, which is why we like that 5 rights of Tibetan yoga approach. For most people, everyone has some kind of mobility issue, but some people have very specific needs. This isn't going to cover a very specific need. If you feel like I have something very specific, then yes, you're going to have an issue. But if it's just very general, then the 5 rights of Tibetan yoga can help with that. So anyway, the tabletop. The tabletop position is quite straightforward. I'm going to sit in almost like an L-sit position to start off with. And the first little indicator of tightness should be what's happening with my calves, what's happening with my hamstrings. Do I feel like it would be much nicer if I just lay back like this? If the answer is yes, then you probably find that the hamstrings are very tight because the fascial line of the hamstring runs all the way down to the calf. From here, when it looks at where my hand should be, my hand should really be right by the hip. Now, hand position is going to depend on how your shoulders feel. Do you like the hands forwards, to the side? Do you like to turn them back? Whatever works best with you is fine for me. When it comes to beginning this position, I want to start by pushing the hands into the floor. So there's going to be 2 reasons why you may find that may be difficult for you. 1, you've got stubby arms like a T-Rex. That's all right. And 2, you may find you have a big power booty. But that's okay, because I like big butts, and that's why it's impossible for me to lie. If you get that reference, we can be friends. Hands by the hips, I push down. From here, I'm going to allow the feet to track forward. I'm going to drive the hips up to the ceiling, tabletop position. And as I bring the hips down and through the hands, ideally, we're not letting the bum touch the floor. Again, that's going to depend a little bit on how your body works right now. We come up to the ceiling, back down, bum through the hands. So that is the tabletop. As we come into the pump, which is basically a downward facing dog into up dog kind of position, I'm going to start with the hands directly below the shoulders, knees directly below the hips. I'm going to dig those toes into the floor, and I'm going to send the hips up to the ceiling as I drive the heels into the floor. So hips up to the ceiling, heels to the floor, and I'm really trying to stretch out the posterior chains. I'm trying to drive those heels to the floor, trying to open those shoulders as much as possible. And then I shift my weight and bring the hips down to the floor, arching up and looking to the ceiling. Push the hips to the ceiling, drive the heels down, try to open the shoulders as much as possible. Hips down to the floor, arching up. We're going to do those 2 exercises for 10 reps each for 3 total sets. Okay, so let's talk about the strength piece very quickly. As I said at the board talk, it's 5 sets. Each set is 3 minutes long. Within that 3-minute window of time, we have a superset to do. So if you're at home with a wonderful home gym setup, not only are you blessed, we also get to do dips today. Happy days. So as always, within the gym, we have a few options in terms of dips, in terms of escalating intensity. The easiest one always being starting with the feet on the floor with the legs bent. So one thing to always remember is the difference between being able to do dips on a dip bar and dips on like a couch or a box or like your stairs is the shoulder position. So if you find that when you bring the arm behind you, you're getting a lot of discomfort, then you might need to modify your positioning and maybe even look at a different option of an exercise to do. So always pay attention to what the shoulders are telling you. If I can do dips, we should have the hands roughly about hip by the hips. They should be straight down from the shoulders, and I'm not shrugging the shoulders up and trying to push the shoulders away from the ears. And then from there, we're going to allow the shoulder to come forwards and ideally bring the shoulder below the elbow as we then come up to a tricep extension. So controlling there. If that's easy for you, then it's then starting to move the feet forwards, keeping the legs straight. If that's easy for you, we're going to elevate the feet, put the feet on a box or a stair. From there, add a plate to your lap. And of course, if you can do those options, then from there, we're going to move into a bodyweight dip. Ideally, when we're doing a bodyweight dip, again, it's always about that shoulder health piece first. The pecs are internal rotators. So that means if you're using dip bars, ideally, you want to be slightly turning the hands in, as our bars do here at the gym. So I'm going to start up, lock. pop the arm out, make sure the shoulders are not shrugged, shoulder comes all the way down, pause, and then from there, we come back up. So those are dips if we're within the gym. From there, we're going to come over here and we're going to talk about rows very quickly. So again, what are your options for rows? Do you want to use a dumbbell, kettlebell, landmine? The choice is yours, but ideally, just like with the dips, try and make them a little bit more challenging as those sets go on. When I'm doing rows, like to have my hand bolstered against something. So that might mean putting your hand against some dumbbells on a dumbbell rack, might be putting your hand against the wall, a friendly pet, whatever it is. From here, we're going to set up with a nice neutral spine, legs in a staggered stance. I'm going to focus on the elbow drive back first. So keeping a neutral spine as we drive the elbow back, controlling that elbow down, making sure that we're not getting into any crazy body English or flailing around. We should be nice and controlled throughout. So that's what we're looking for with our home gym exercise options. All right, so we've done our exercises at home with equipment. What happens if it means now we're at home without equipment? So we talked to the board about couch dips and also finding some kind of row. We're calling it the door row, just for fun. When it comes to couch dips, ideally having a nice stable surface, so that might not actually be your couch. The couch might be too soft, but it could be a step, it could be a box, it could be anything that you're willing to put your hands on and do a dip with. So the same rules apply when it comes to doing dips on here, and as I mentioned before with the exercise equipment option, if the shoulders don't feel good on this, you might need to find another option. So that could be push-ups, it could be some other kind of pressing movement. Again, if you're not sure what to do, you can send us a message directly and we will help you with that. So when it comes to doing our dips on the box, hands should be about shoulder width again, and I'm making sure, just like I did before, that I'm not shrugging the shoulders. I'm pushing those shoulders away from the ears. And ideally, we're bringing those shoulders below the elbows. If that's easy with a bent leg, maybe I'm extending the leg. And if that's easy, maybe I'm elevating the leg. And again, if that's easy, maybe I'm getting a cat, putting my cat on my lap. I think maximizing use of cats during this time is extremely important. Let's get on to some rows. Come with me. We're going to head out to the back. Seems very mysterious. Can I do this without looking? We're about to find out. Am I going to hit my head? We don't know, but we're going to find out together. I think I'm going to make it. This is good. All right, so you're at home. You want to do some rows, but you don't have any rings. You don't have a TRX. What do you have? Now, kids, you've got to get creative. This is a strap that I took from my truck. I am blessed and cursed by owning a truck because I have to help people move all the time, so I need these straps. Now, these straps are fantastic for holding very heavy things down, and they can also be used for rows. So all I've done is crudely tied a knot in it. Nothing special, not a fancy knot, nothing from a sailor. All I'm going to do is take this knot, put it over a sturdy door, close said door, make sure it's firmly closed, pull the strap until I can feel there's tension on it, and then from here, I'm just going to set my feet up against the door frame. I'm going to lean back slightly, nice and smooth and controlled as I perform my rows. Nice straight body, nice focus on driving with the elbows. If this is easy, you move the hands down and make things a little bit more challenging. So this is one way you can do this. Do you want to use a rope, straps, your old jiu-jitsu belt? You've got to get creative. So, last option, if you don't have this available to you, or maybe you're a seriously heavy lump like I am, and you keep pulling doors down, is the YTWI. Let's go back into the gym. Ignore the shoes, don't look at the shoes. We're going to come back into the gym and talk about YTWIs. So YTWI, great exercise for scapular retraction, rear delt development, rotator cuff health. Super easy to do. All I need to do is lay down on the floor in a nice prone position, hands out like the Y in YMCA. I'm going to lift those arms up and hold for 5 seconds. I'm then going to bring the arms out into a T, squeeze the shoulder blades together for 5 seconds. Elbows down towards the pockets, squeeze the upper back and hold for 5 seconds. Arms down by the hips, lift them up for an I for 5 seconds, and then relax. So when it comes to the YTWI, there's a ton of ways you can cut it. You can add little weights into your hands, can of beans, whatever you want to use. And you don't just have to do a YTWI, you can do a YTWI, IWTY, or as we like to call it in the gym, the yitty witty. Okay, so conditioning and extra sauce we're going to talk about now. So in our conditioning piece today, it is a 10-minute AMRAP. So AMRAP means as many rounds as possible. Each round in this workout today features 2 movements. An offset thruster, so that means I'm going to do a thruster with 5 reps on one arm, with a weight on one arm, and then 5 reps with a thruster with a weight on the other arm. So that offset weight is meant to challenge our core stability, as well as, of course, challenge our legs in the squat and challenge our upper body as we press the weight overhead. The second movement we're looking at is ring rows. So using the rings, or you could use a TRX strap, or you could use the door row option that we talked about with the home equipment. So when we're looking at thrusters today, with the thruster, it is essentially a front squat position into a pressing position overhead. So we go from a squat into extension. So if you want to use a dumbbell or a kettlebell, essentially what we're looking to do is have that weight rested on the shoulder. So we're not out here trying to stabilize it with the shoulder and the forearm. The weight rests on the shoulder. I descend into a squat, press overhead, control back down to the shoulder, squat, drive that weight up, and control back down to the shoulder. If you're at home without a dumbbell, you've got to think of something else to use. I always recommend a cat first. But if you don't have a cat, we have this rather apt bottle of Mr. Clean right now, which you could use. Find something that's a challenging weight. You can have your Mr. Clean bottle in a front rack position, descend down into your squat, drive overhead, think of the cleanliness not only in yourself from doing your fitness routine, but also the floor once you are done. Once I'm done with my 5 thrusters on one side and 5 on the other, we're then going to get into ring rows today. So whether it's a ring row, TRX, door strap row, whatever it is, essentially we're going to start by looking at that tight plank position. So I lean back, body in a straight line, legs tight, bum tight, abs tight. I'm going to drive back with the elbows, chest to the rings, and then I control back down to a straight arm. So I'm just trying to find the most challenging set I can do for 15 reps. That's going to be our conditioning piece today. 10 thrusters, 5 per side, excuse me, and then 15 reps of a ring row or a door strap row or whatever it is. When we come into our extra sauce today, really what we're looking for is a plank up with a plank, with some resting. We're going to do that 4 times. So, I recommend if you're doing a plank up, have something soft underneath your elbows in case you get fatigued and you end up smashing your elbow into the floor. I've got to think about with the plank up, there's a big rotational component towards it. So the idea should be that when I'm in my plank position, I'm going to bring the elbow down, and then press back up onto the hands. It's really easy to let the hips go wild as I do this. Things flop around, but really want to try and make it as smooth as possible, trying to minimize any hip shifting as much as possible. If we can, starting with one arm, and then starting with the other. So I'm going to do 30 seconds of plank ups, and then just 30 seconds into my regular plank. Then I'm going to rest for 30 seconds. We're going to do that 4 times, and that's conditioning and the extra sauce.